Coming up, the Rays are still undefeated and making baseball history. This is Locked On Game to Game, MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. Local experts join us to go over the biggest stories in baseball and recap all of the games for you from last night in the MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Rays continue to win, and they are winning big. They've won all 6 games they played this season by 4 or more runs. Some perspective, that's something baseball has not seen since the late 1800s. Locked On Rays riding the high after the sweep of the Nationals.
How about you make it 6 in a row for your Tampa Bay Rays? My name is Ulysses Sembrano, host of the Locked On Rays podcast. Yes, the Rays are 6-0. They're the only team to be undefeated this season. It's amazing what they're doing. I don't care if you say Detroit Tigers. I don't care if you say the Washington Nationals. They have shown what they're able to do, both pitching-wise and offensively. It's been amazing to watch what this team can do. Today, Shane McClanahan, for example, did not have his best stuff, but he did what aces are supposed to do, which is what? Minimize the damage. And that's exactly what he did. So if you want to hear more about this and everything else about your Tampa Bay Rays, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on Locked On Rays, our channel on YouTube, and make sure to follow us on social media and any other podcast platform. Rays up.
The Yankees wrap up their series with the Phillies by getting a win and taking 2 out of 3 from Philly. Locked On Yankees is in with all the details.
This is Stacey Gotsulias of Locked On Yankees, and the Yankees beat the Phillies 4-2 on Wednesday afternoon to take the series, 2 out of 3 against the Phillies. So they finished their homestand 4-2, not too shabby. On Wednesday's game, or on Wednesday during the game, that's the sentence I'm looking for. Garrett Cole pitched 6 1/3 innings. He gave up 3 hits, walked 3, struck out 8, had a pitch clock violation, but overall, he looked good. He was pitching hard, a little worried about the weather for him because it wasn't a great day in New York, kind of damp, kind of cold, and he did really well. Another guy who did really well, Gleyber Torres. The man is unstoppable these days. He was 3 for 4 with a double, 2 runs batted in. He's 8 for his first 19. He has 2 home runs, 6 runs batted in, 5 runs scored, and he's walking at an insane clip for Gleyber Torres. So we'll have everything you need to know about this game and more on the next Locked On Yankees.
The New York Mets did not have a nice trip to Milwaukee this week. They did show some life on Wednesday, but they didn't get a win, a series sweep for the Brewers. Locked On Mets looking to put this terrible series in the rearview mirror.
What an absolutely brutal series for the New York Mets in Milwaukee. They get swept, lose the first 2 games of the series by a combined score of 19-0. The bats just completely disappear. They finally wake up in the 3rd game. Francisco Lindor and Pete Alonso have a huge day. Lindor drives in the first 2 runs. Pete Alonso homers in 2 consecutive at-bats, driving in Lindor. 6 RBIs accounted for by those 2 guys. The best run-producing tandem in baseball last year, and it doesn't matter. David Peterson wasn't good. The bullpen was worse. Adam Ottavino ends up giving up a homer to Garrett Mitchell to walk things off for Milwaukee. That team with their young players just killed the Mets, whether it was Garrett Mitchell, Joey Wiemer, Bryce Turang, not to mention Brian Anderson, former Marlin, coming back against his old division foe and just destroying the Mets, not to mention everyone hates Jesse Winker. That was a series to forget, and that's not the way you want to go into your home opener on Thursday.
Dylan Cease and the White Sox get the win over the San Fran last night. Locked On hosts from both teams join us with more postgame.
The Chicago White Sox rebounded from that lopsided loss on Monday, beating the San Francisco Giants Wednesday afternoon 7-3. Hey, I'm Nick Morawski from Locked On White Sox. Dylan Cease had to battle. He did not have his opening night stuff or control. He went 5 innings, issued 5 walks, had 8 strikeouts, only 1 earned run. Big games from Gavin Sheets, making the most of his playing opportunity. Luis Robert Jr. with a 3-hit game, and Yohan Moncada continued to stay hot. White Sox go for the series win on Thursday afternoon, sending Lance Lynn to the hill for more. check out the Locked On White Sox podcast.
Logan Webb, a little bit hittable today, gives up 9 hits, 4 earned runs, has an ERA of 6.55, but there are a lot of reasons to believe that that's not something to be too worried about. On the offensive side, the Giants struck out 13 more times today, but they were facing one of the best strikeout pitchers in the game. On the positive side, they drew 9 walks, and they came into today among the leaders in walk rate, and I would venture to say going into tomorrow they may be number 1 in the league in terms of the percentage of the time in which they draw walks. They also hit 7 homers yesterday, very nearly 8, and they added one today, very nearly a second today. So patience and power, it's been a little bit feast or famine. All in all, a lot will come down to the rubber match tomorrow. Will they be 3-3 or 2-4? We'll find out tomorrow.
Coming up, the Astros avoid the sweep against the Tigers. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB. Today's edition of Locked On Game to Game is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Baseball is back. It's the perfect time for you to download FanDuel. New customers get that no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. All you have to do is download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It is safe, secure, super easy for you to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers to home runs in the game. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. Don't miss the chance to get your no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel. Welcome back. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you again for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. The Red Sox are happy to be done with their series as many issues cropped up against the Pirates this week. Locked On Red Sox is in to go over a few of the issues.
I don't know about you, but I know I'm happy that Red Sox-Pirates series came to an end on Wednesday. Hey, it's Lauren from Locked On Red Sox, and Boston was swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates. Tuesday and Wednesday's games just did not feature the offense that Red Sox fans had been used to seeing for the last few games. Some sloppy defense, and overall just not good baseball from the Red Sox. Jake and I are going to break down both Tuesday and Wednesday's games. We're going to break down the pitching, Corey Kluber and Nick Pavetta's starts, the sloppy defense, the what in the world was that kind of play in Wednesday's game with Rafael Devers and O'Neal Cruz colliding at third base. We got you covered on our next episode of Locked On Red Sox.
The Blue Jays got a shutout win over the Royals and will look to take 3 out of 4 against Kansas City in their series finale today. Locked On Blue Jays goes over last night's final.
Hello, friends. Craig Ballard, Locked On Blue Jays. Blue Jays win. That's a shutout. And who are the main characters in today's win? Well, how about Alek Manoah and Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Definitely want to shout both of them out. Also would like to shout out the rest of the middle of that Jays line. Not just Vlad, but Dalton Varsho at 4 spot, and Matt Chapman continued to be hot as well. All of a sudden, the Blue Jays, and tomorrow's a matinee, and all of a sudden the Blue Jays get Kevin Gausman going to the mound tomorrow afternoon with a chance to take 3 out of 4 in this series. I think Blue Jay fans would have been happy with that coming into the series and have to be happy about that now when you consider we saw whatever the heck that was from Jose Barrios in game 1 of this series. Join us tomorrow on Locked On Blue Jays. We get you set for that Kevin Gausman start, and it's Throwback Thursday where we look at a lot of interesting stats, stories, and players in Toronto Blue Jay history.
The Orioles lost in Texas, but a solid rookie debut softened the blow for Baltimore. Locked On hosts from both sides are in with more.
Yeah, the Orioles lost, but doesn't it kind of still feel like a win? O's fall 5-2 to the Rangers, not able to sweep the series, but Grayson Rodriguez impresses in his Major League debut. Yes, it was a little bit of a rough first inning. He walked the first batter he faced. He gave up 2 runs. But Rodriguez didn't give up another run after that. Didn't give up another walk after that. In fact, 4 consecutive scoreless innings afterwards. He strikes out 5. The command got better and better. The stuff looked really good. Fastball velo was up. The pitches were spinning. He got the off speeds in the zone more and more as the game went on. Really, really promising stuff from Grayson Rodriguez. And yes, it was an Orioles loss, but you still feel good after that one, and hopefully 5 days from now we see Rodriguez on the mound again. But I'll break down everything you need to know from Rodriguez's Major League debut coming up on Thursday's episode of the Locked On Orioles podcast.
It's Jacob deGrom's world, and we're all just lucky to be living in it. The Texas Rangers win 5-2, cap off a winning first homestand of the season with that 5-2 victory over the Orioles. I'm Bryce Patrick, host of the Locked On Rangers podcast. This was a fantastic outing for Jacob deGrom, who was perfect through 4 innings in this one. Ended the day with 6 innings, 1 earned run, and 11 strikeouts. Typical Jacob deGrom stuff. Absolutely filthy. These Baltimore Orioles hitters couldn't do anything with his stuff. One hitter who could do a lot with the opposing pitcher, that was Josh Young, a multi-hit game for him. 3 RBIs, including a 2-run homer to give the Rangers the lead late in this one. The bullpen throws 3 scoreless innings, continues its scoreless inning stretch, and the Rangers were able to get to Grayson Rodriguez, one of the top pitchers in all of baseball, making his Major League debut for the Baltimore Orioles, get the win, and head out on the road with a winning record atop the AL West.
The champs able to salvage the series finale against the Tigers yesterday. Locked On Tigers and Locked On Astros go over that final.
All right, Tigers drop the series finale to the Houston Astros on Wednesday. I'm Scott Bentley of Locked On Tigers. This was I don't want to say bound to happen, but a sweep was probably pretty lofty going into this, and I will gladly take 2 of 3. Erod starts this game, not his best start. Had some command issues, but also had some really good moments with command. Had some short, porchy type of home runs. Not a great outing. Definitely not his best stuff. Offensively, they put a couple of rallies together and had runners in scoring position throughout the game and just could not hit them home. Christian Javier is a phenomenal pitcher. One of the best in the American League as well. So tough to get any rallies going. Really good bullpen as well. On to the home opener against Boston. They've struggled to start off the year pitching-wise. So let's see if we can take some wins. We'll talk about the rest tomorrow on Locked On Tigers.
HM Wellhouse here with Locked On Astros, and the Astros get the last game of the series, win 8-2, and they're prepared to go to Minnesota. Today, Christian Javier had 5 strikeouts, 6 innings pitched. Looked like he had good movement on the ball. And you had home runs by Kyle Tucker, Chas McCormick, and Jeremy Pena. That's right, Jeremy Pena got a couple hits, his first 2 hits of the series. So let's hope that his bat heats up. The relief pitchers only had to throw a couple innings. They saved the bullpen with an off day, hoping to cool off a hot Minnesota Twins up there in a frigid environment. And the leaders of this team in RBIs are Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez. Who's going to win that battle? And should the Astros talk about going ahead and paying the king? Because the king is having court, and he hopes to continue his hot streak when he gets there. Stay tuned to Locked On Astros. Remember, we're your team every day. Go Stros.
Shohei Ohtani got his first of likely many wins this year. Locked On Angels has more of the full details post-game.
Put on your big A hat for a big W and Shohei Ohtani's first win of the year. What's going on, everybody? It's John Frisch, one half of Locked On Angels, and while the Angels came away with a series victory over the Mariners, it wasn't easy. It was a tight game, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Angels were just not hitting with runners in scoring position, and Shohei really had to labor through 6 innings pitched. He had 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, and 111 pitches, and the cold weather kind of got to him today. He didn't have his best command with 4 walks and 2 hit batters. However, he got through it. Later on, Trout and Ohtani helped their own cause by getting these little bloop singles that were RBIs in the infield at 68 miles per hour and 67 miles per hour. And of course, potential Rookie of the Year candidate Logan O'Hoppe had a 2-run home run to help out his battery mate, Shohei Ohtani. Mike and I are going to talk about this game, so we hope you'll join us on Locked On Angels on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.
That'll do it for this edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB. Thank you again for making Locked On your first listen every weekday. Make sure you're subscribed to Locked On MLB and your favorite team's Locked On podcast on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts from. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.